So I think we just witnessed the biggest upset of the entire NBA playoffs so far, and we're only in round 1. Man, are we in for a treat. Last night, the Miami Heat took down the Milwaukee Bucks in a 5-game series, something I did not think was going to happen. I mean, I said this in my last video, but I literally predicted the Bucks to go to the finals and win. However, that did not happen, and instead we got a Jimmy Butler masterclass for basically the entire series. Now, if you saw the last video, this is going to be kind of like a sequel, except I'm talking more about Miami Heat and more specifically Jimmy Butler, because I feel like I haven't really showed the Heat a lot of love in the postseason, and there's not really a good enough reason for it. And since we're on the topic, we gotta talk about playoff Jimmy, because this man has been amazing during the entire postseason. Now, I know it's only been round 1, but if there was like a postseason MVP so far, I would have to give it to Jimmy Butler or Devin Booker. And as of right now, I'm only gonna barely give the award to Jimmy, even though it's not a real award, but I'm only gonna give the edge to Jimmy slightly just because of who he beat and how dominant he's been. Not to say Booker hasn't been, but I just think the Bucks were a way harder opponent, and this is more shocking than the Suns beating the Clippers. I do want to say though, I think this series has been pretty interesting, and it's really shown us that Jimmy Butler is a different breed in the playoffs. So during this series, this man averaged 36, 6, and 5, and also about 2 steals. But to be honest, I wasn't really paying attention to the stats, because if you was just watching Jimmy Butler, you could see how dominant he was. It seemed like in every single game, Jimmy Butler was the most dominant player on the floor, despite Giannis being there for still a majority of the series. In my opinion, I still believe Giannis is the best player in the NBA, but I'm not gonna lie, his case did not look good in this series. And I know Giannis was dealing with an injury, and he literally just came back and had to do basically all the work for the Bucks. I understand that. I'm just saying what the narrative is gonna look like. I do have a lot of things I could say about this series that is good and bad, and I'm only gonna really focus on the bad for not too long, because we gotta look ahead. Despite Miami getting this win in this series, we obviously have to take account to the fact that the Miami Heat were playing a crippled Bucks team, but also you really do have to think about it. I mean, the Bucks were healthy a majority of the time except losing Giannis for a couple games, and I mean, Giannis still technically played, and he played pretty well for the most part, except for like the last couple minutes of game 5. Now, I know some people might try to throw the excuse of, oh, Miami played a crippled team. I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to bring it up to give you a little bit of context. But now that I think about it, and I know I've died in New York in the past, but I'm not gonna lie, this might have been the hardest opponent the Heat could play until the finals. There were honestly 3 teams that I could have seen making it out of the East, and that was the Celtics, the Bucks, and the Sixers. And if I were to put it into a hierarchy of who I thought was above the others, I had Milwaukee, the Celtics, and then the Sixers. But Milwaukee just got taken down, and Boston is still in a series with Atlanta. I know the chances of Boston blowing a 3-1 lead are insane, but if that happens, I'm not gonna lie, we're gonna have some conversations. But in the hypothetical situation that Boston wins their series, which I fully expect them to, one of the top teams is getting eliminated next round, because we're gonna have the Celtics and the Sixers playing. I've been saying this, but I think this is gonna be the greatest series in this playoffs, no matter what matchups we get. And at first, I had the hot take of whoever wins this series is gonna make it to the finals, and I kind of treated it like the 2021 Eastern Conference semifinals in the Bucks and Nets series, where the winner out of that, in my opinion, was gonna make the finals, and I was right. However, this year, I need to take into account that playoff Jimmy Butler is a thing, and the Heat are on fire right now. I don't care the context, a 8 seed beating a 1 seed is pretty rare. In fact, this is only the 6th time in NBA history that this has happened. And this wasn't a random 1 seed. This was a 1 seed that was predominantly the 1 seed for a majority of the year. They were the undisputed #1 team in the NBA, but Miami took them down, and this has to mean something. I know some people are saying that they think this could be a good series between the Knicks and the Heat, but I'm not gonna lie. Seeing what the Heat did in this series and how good they looked, I expect the Heat to absolutely crush it. And I'm not gonna lie, for some reason, and I said this on a podcast, for some reason the Heat just love to show up out of nowhere. Like, they'll go on this crazy run where they beat teams they should not be beat, and Jimmy Butler is on fire, and they just make it to the finals and do something crazy. I know the bubble was the bubble, whatever, but think about 2020. Ironically, that same year, I'm pretty sure they beat the Bucks. In fact, I think they might have swept them. And now we have this year where the Heat just did something insane. They made history, and now they're on fire and have an opportunity to really do something. Of course, with that being said, there still are some negatives about the Heat that we do have to bring up. Not really like them being bad, just some bad things that have happened, I should say. First of all, we have to look at the fact that Tyler Hero is not going to be back unless the Heat make the finals. That's what I've been hearing, which I'm not going to lie, at this point is possible, but I wouldn't really count on Hero coming back. Even in the hypothetical that the Heat do make the finals, I don't know if that timeline was just rushed or if it's, you know, the perfect time for him to come back. I really don't know if he'll even be 100%. But if he is, then that would be the perfect addition at the perfect time. Also, another player who unfortunately is going to be out for the rest of the year and even some more time is Victor Oladipo, which, by the way, I just want to say this now, I feel so bad for this dude. Like, this man has dealt with so many injuries in his life, and when we saw this injury, this man didn't even look phased. At this point, this man just looked defeated, like, yup, I've been there, done that, and it was tragic to see. I sincerely do hope that Victor Oladipo does get better and makes a strong recovery. Also, as I was about to do research for my next segment, I just found out that apparently Bam Adebayo has been playing through a hamstring injury. So I guess the negative propaganda isn't ideal right now. Regardless, I do think Miami has a pretty strong team, and I don't think they're a fluke. I think they're in a perfect position right now to really do something. Like I said, I know I doubt the Knicks all the time, but I don't know if this Knicks team was good enough to beat the Bucks, and I sure as well don't think they're good enough to beat the Heat, which isn't really a knock on the Knicks. It's just the fact that the Heat are getting hot at the right time, and at the end of the day, that's what the playoffs are really all about. You can be a great team in the regular season, and that's cool. That really is cool. But like Will Cho said, the playoffs expose everything. Not to mention, it is also about getting hot at the right time. So you combine both of those things, and everything is playing out for Miami. They're getting hot at the right time, and now it's time for them to play a Knicks team that I don't know if they can beat them. And I mean the Knicks beating the Heat, obviously. As far as actually looking at the matchup and seeing stuff, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know who's gonna be able to stop Jimmy. I think Bam Adebayo is gonna do pretty well on Julius Randle because he struggled last series. Also, apparently Julius Randle is injured. I don't know how bad it is or if it's a day-to-day thing, but that's something we could talk about. As far as like going through each position, I think guys like Jalen Brunson and RJ Barrett are gonna have a goddamn field day. The problem is, I think Miami is just way more experienced, and I think they're more ready for this type of series. And New York, while they're a good team, I think they're just too young, and I don't think they're gonna be able to compete with Miami. Now, contrary to popular belief, I don't think this is gonna be a blowout like I said last time, where I had the Cavs winning in 5. This time, I think it's gonna be a pretty close series, maybe 6 or 7. Regardless, I still do have the Heat, and the Heat will probably be either playing the Celtics or the Sixers. And if they're playing the Sixers, I got Heat, but if it's Boston, that's something else we gotta look at. Now, Milwaukee played bad. They played absolutely terrible, and how this went down is absolutely inexcusable. Some people are gonna look to blame Giannis, but me personally, I have a lot of other things I could say about certain people. For example, Drew Holiday played terrible. This man was just a liability. Chris Middleton did not really show up in every single game. This man was inconsistent as hell. And Mike Budenholzer, this man needs to be fired. But why are all of these things true? Well, I made a video about it, and if you guys want to see, go check it out.